Hello, everyone. Welcome to Writing for 40, Writing for Accountancy. I'm Dr. Elliott Parker. It's great to have you in class this semester. And the purpose of this lecture video is to talk a little bit about the class, what we're going to be doing, where we're headed, broadly speaking, over the course of the semester, talk about some of our goals and some of our objectives, and hopefully reduce some of the anxiety that some of you have about taking this class, because I know for many of you, this is the first writing class that you've had in many, many semesters, maybe since freshman year. And so I know some of you are coming into the class with a little bit of anxiety. Some of you are coming into the class with some questions about what's this class all about? Why am I having to take this class? Why does this really matter for me as I get ready to finish up my career here as a student at Ole Miss and as I get ready to finish up my career as an accounting student and an accounting major? So we'll get to all that in just a second. But I also wanted to introduce myself and let you know that there's actually going to be another human being on the other side of the class working with you this semester on the other side of the screen, interacting with you and working with you over the course of the semester. And a couple things I wanted to point out before we get to the class and talking about it more broadly is that a couple of ways you can be successful in this class is number one, ask for help if you need it. If you have questions, concerns, run into problems at any time with anything in the course or anything within Blackboard, please let me know. Where we don't see each other 3 days a week or 2 days a week face to face on a regular basis, if I don't hear from you and you're struggling, I just assume everything is okay. So please don't suffer in silence. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time if you have questions or concerns. All of my contact information is in the syllabus, which you'll see a little bit later on in this module. So feel free to reach out to me at any time. Feel free to stop by my office at any time if you're on campus. I'm happy to do Zoom conferences and Zoom chats like we're doing here at any time. So just let me know. We can pick a day and time that works best for your schedule. It doesn't necessarily have to be during my office hours. It can be some other time during the week. I'm very flexible with that. So let me know if you have questions, concerns, you need help at any time with anything that we're doing in the class. And then secondly, if you're not really familiar with taking a lot of online classes, the key to doing really well in online classes, I think, is just reading and reading well. So make sure that you follow directions, make sure that you review the assignment sheets, make sure that you understand what the assignments are asking you to do, make sure that you follow those steps. And that way you will be able to submit your work completely and on time and have it be representative of your best thinking and your best work. And some of you might be thinking, I've never taken a writing class online. Maybe I've taken theater appreciation online, or maybe I've taken an economics class online, but I've never taken a writing class online. How does this work? How does this work through Blackboard? Well, I think you'll see over the course of the semester as we migrate to Blackboard Ultra that it is going to be a pretty seamless process once you get into it and get adjusted to it and kind of work through the various stages within the modules. So I don't think there's anything to be concerned about there. And we'll talk a little bit about ways that we'll be successful and ways that we'll sort of navigate this online class in Blackboard here in just a moment. So if you're with Blackboard Ultra for the first time, this will be sort of a brand new, old experience for you. If you came to this class from using the old version of Blackboard, this will be a little bit of a learning curve, but I think you guys are really going to enjoy the new Blackboard Ultra. I've enjoyed it a great deal building the class and working with it on the faculty side, so I think you guys are going to really enjoy it on the student side as well. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about where we're going with the class, what our goals are, what we're going to be dealing with and addressing sort of from a 30,000-foot perspective over the course of the semester. And again, I hope this will answer some initial questions that you have about the class and also maybe relieve some anxiety and some nervousness that some of you may have regarding the class. So as I mentioned, the title of our class is Writing for 40, which is Introduction to Accountancy or Writing for Accountancy, Introduction to Writing for Accountancy. And so that's really our focus is looking at the ways that we can create the kinds of documents and replicate the kinds of documents that are going to be expected of you as an accountant. So either when you start your internship, some of you are doing your internships now, when you're working through your internship, and as you get ready to become an accountant down the road, some of the types of documents that you're going to be expected to do, the kind of research you're going to be expected to do. We're going to talk about that, work on that, skill build on those concepts and ideas over the course of the semester. Before we get to that, I wanted to talk a little bit about me and give you a little bit of information about me and a little bit of information about my background. Some of you I've had in class before, but it's been a long time, so you may not remember. Some of you, I'm a new face and a new voice, and so here's a little bit about me. So I'm from West Virginia originally. I got my undergraduate degree in journalism from Marshall University and went on to get my graduate degrees at Eastern Kentucky University and at Murray State University. My background is in journalism. I was a journalist for a while. I worked for the Charleston Gazette newspaper on the copy desk for a while, and also worked for Tri-Cities Broadcasting in Bristol, Virginia. When I was there, I was working primarily as a staff writer, and so my responsibilities included writing sales proposals, writing contracts, writing ad copy for people to read commercials on the air so that we could promote services and industries and products that in order for us to make revenue to keep the radio programming on the air. Basically, any kind of written document, formal written document that the station had to create or that the company had to create was my responsibility. And so I did that for a couple of years before transitioning away from that and going into education. So I didn't have a goal of being a professor. I didn't have a goal of working in higher education. I just kind of matriculated into that through my career in journalism. So my background as a professor, I taught for 10 years at Mount West Community College. I taught for 3 years at Marshall University, which was my alma mater. And then I have been at Ole Miss since 2018. So I'm starting my eighth year in 2025. So it's been a great experience. I've enjoyed Oxford. I've enjoyed Ole Miss immensely, and I've enjoyed the opportunity and the experience. You may be seeing a couple of pictures there on the bottom of the screen and wondering what those are. In addition to being a professor, in addition to the other things that I do in my life as an adult, I'm also a fiction writer. And so that is something I picked up a number of years ago as a little bit of a hobby, and it's just kind of blossomed into something entirely different and entirely unexpected, but it's been wonderful all the same. And those two books there are my latest books that came out in 2024. The first one is called Table for Two, which is a collection of multi-genre short stories. And the book on the right, Double Crossed, is a thriller. It is a thriller set in Charleston, West Virginia, where I grew up. So I love writing fiction. I love creating stories. I love making up characters, blowing things up, pushing people over over buildings and over bridges and all the mayhem and chaos that come from writing a good thriller, but I also enjoy the short form of short stories as well. So that's what I do in addition to my teaching and my professorial work at Ole Miss is write fiction. In addition to that, my favorite food is Italian. I love Italian food. I could eat Italian food every day till I was 800 pounds. So if you have any great Italian food recipes, feel free to pass those along. Or if you want to make a nice Italian dish and come by my office and bring it by, that would be much appreciated as well. Always loved Italian food, and it's always been my favorite. I have two cats, Buddy and Layla, that you see there on the right in the brown chair. Layla is the gray cat on the bottom. She will be 18 years old in October of 2025. Buddy on the top there, he will be 10 years old as of January 2026. So both of those cats getting a little older in years, but they're my babies, and they've been with me through a lot of things as an adult, ups and downs of life that we all go through, and I couldn't imagine my life without them. Those of you that have kitty cats, you know what I'm talking about. You know how special they are and how special that relationship is. If you don't have kitty cats, I'm here to tell you you're missing out. Life is so much better with kitty cats. And so if you don't have kitty cats, I would encourage you to go and get one. And then something else about me that you may not know is that I am a stutterer. I have a stuttering problem, and it is something that I've dealt with my entire life. And the best thing that I have found for me to manage that is have to do exactly what I'm doing here, which is speaking in front of people or speaking for a large audience or standing in front of a classroom and talking to students and answering questions and interacting with students because I'm too busy and my mind is sort of snapping from one topic to the next and snapping in 1,000 different directions in that process. So I don't have time to worry about my stutter. I don't have time to worry about, am I going to slur my words? Am I going to trip over something? Am I going to trip over a multisyllabic word that is going to make me seem awkward or silly or foolish? So that has been something that's really helped me is being able to and having the opportunity to speak in front of large groups. And so if you come by my office, if we talk on the phone, if we talk on Zoom over the course of the semester and I slur my words or I stutter or I stumble a little bit, I promise I'm okay. I promise everything is all right. It's just something that I still struggle with as an adult. And I find that the more tired I am, the more my stutter becomes an issue. And so if you know of someone in your family, or maybe you are a stutterer yourself, maybe you can relate to that process. But I find the more tired I am, the more susceptible I am to stuttering. But that's just a little bit about me, just a little bit about my background, my educational background, some of my hobbies and interests, and what I'm up to when I'm not being a professor. So we talked about this a moment ago. Why is writing 440 important? Well, I think that we're going to look at three main goals over the course of the semester, and I hope these are three goals that will really guide everything that we talk about and everything that we do. And I think what we're doing here and looking at these is trying to establish effective writing skills in all things that we do. And so one of the first things that we do is we explain and present research. That's one of the best goals and one of the key goals we're going to look at this semester. Not everything that we write comes from our own knowledge base. Not everything that we write comes from a definition or a concept or a template. Sometimes we as writers, even in the accountancy field, we have to go out and find information. We've got to research information. We've got to go to secondary sources and find out what they're saying about a particular issue or topic. And so I gave you some examples there of the kinds of research assignments and research projects that maybe you may have to do or maybe have already done if you're doing your internship now as an accounting major. But these are going to be the types of documents that are going to be expected of you and the types of skills you'll be expected to demonstrate as you enter into the field of accounting. We're also going to talk about persuasion and influence. One of the things that's so important about writing is that 90% of the words that we use are trying to do one of those two things. We're trying to persuade someone to do something, or we're trying to influence someone to do something. We're trying to influence someone to see our point of view as being the correct point of view. We're trying to influence someone to adopt a policy or a procedure that we're recommending. We're trying to influence someone to see something in a different way that maybe they hadn't considered before. And we do that through the power of language, and we do that through the power of writing. And so we're going to be working on those skills over the course of the semester, honing that and fine-tuning that as we go. And we're also going to talk about audience. We're going to spend a lot of time at the beginning of the semester talking about audience. Who is the audience, or who are the audience groups that read these accounting documents? And what do we need to know about them? And why do we have to, quote unquote, spoil them with the way that we organize and present information to them? Because oftentimes these audience groups that we target in the accounting profession are busy people. These oftentimes are executives. These oftentimes are managers. These oftentimes are business owners. These oftentimes are people that, maybe aren't sitting in a cubicle with just one primary task all day long that they're responsible for. These people are managing employees and dealing with payroll and collecting money and, providing products and services to consumers. And so you really have to tailor your documents as an accountant to these sort of spoiled audience groups. And we'll get into some of that over the course of the semester. So that's the three big key points we're going to be looking at and expanding upon over the course of the semester. And what we're going to be doing in regards to that, as I already talked about looking at audience, we're going to talk about active voice and why it's always important to use the active voice when you're writing the types of documents expected of you in the accountancy profession. We're going to look at how to write clear, concise, and informative sentences. Believe it or not, we do not have to write big, flowing, flowery, 8-page communiques and correspondences between ourselves and our audience groups. Sometimes a one-page memo or a really clearly written email is all we need to create to get our point across or to influence or persuade that audience member or that reader. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how also not to alienate a potential reader. You can deliver bad news to a client. You can deliver bad news to an audience group or an audience member without offending them. You can do it in such a way and tailor it in such a way that they understand the seriousness of the situation, but they don't feel like you were trying to, finger point at them or finger wag at them, or they don't leave the reading situation mad and upset. So we're going to talk about that as well. And then we're going to compose, as I mentioned, a variety of documents that will be expected of you in the accounting profession. And then we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about organizing information. I think that's really, really important when we start thinking about taking care of addressing the audience, those spoiled readers I was talking about. You can do it in such a way that you can craft and organize your documents that's going to grab their attention and get them to read from line 1 at the top of the page all the way to the last line at the bottom of the page. So how are we going to get there? How are we going to do all of those things? Well, we're going to have a variety of shorter and longer writing assignments, and these assignments are going to scaffold and build off of one another. So the assignments earlier in the module are going to lead to some of the more substantial assignments later on in the module, which is going to lead into some of the bigger writing projects as we move forward throughout the semester. And all of that is kind of outlined in the syllabus. You'll see that when you get to that document. We're also going to interact with each other through a class discussion board. You'll have a chance to interact with your classmates, read their perspectives, their ideas, their point of view. There's going to be a couple of discussion board posts where I'm going to ask you to go out and find your own examples of different types of writing, and you'll have a chance to share with your classmates why you chose that piece of writing and what you learned from it. So we're going to be interacting with each other that way. We're going to have a chance to research and explore current issues in in accounting. That's going to come later in the semester with our white paper assignment and our iSearch essay. We're going to be doing that. You're going to be taking a current issue that's going on in accounting and kind of drill down and explore that idea further. So more on that to come later in the semester. And we're going to look at some case studies of actual accounting issues that current accountants are dealing with on a day-to-day basis that involve writing. Either writing has gotten someone into trouble, or writing needs to get someone out of trouble, or writing needs to do something to try to make the situation better. And so we'll look at that through case studies over the course of the semester. So I mentioned earlier, if you've never taken an online class before, or especially an online writing class, and you're thinking, how's all this going to work? Here are some tips that I can tell you, in addition to asking for help and reaching out if you have questions or concerns, or coming by my office, or us chatting on the phone, or doing this through Zoom if you have questions or concerns. Be sure that you come to class, quote unquote. And I know we don't meet regularly face to face, but make sure that you're logging into Blackboard. Make sure that you're checking Blackboard regularly, that you're logging in at least once a day and staying on top of the reading and staying on top of the assignments that are due so that you can plan your day and plan your week so that you don't fall behind on your assignments. All of our assignments are due on Sundays at midnight. The next modules for each week will turn on Monday morning. So you'll have, in theory, almost 6.5 or 6.75 days to complete work that's due each week. So all of that's explained and outlined in the syllabus, but make sure that you don't fall behind and that you stay on top of those assignments. I would also recommend maintaining a positive attitude. Not every module is going to be easy. Some of the modules that you look at and some of the modules that you address and deal with are going to come to you very naturally, just like that. And others are going to seem a little different, a little foreign, and might take a little bit more time. So when those tougher modules come, don't worry, don't stress out, don't panic, especially if it's involving writing that you haven't done for a while, or maybe writing or styles of writing that you're unfamiliar with. Be sure that you don't fall behind and don't get hard on yourself and don't be too negative about that. It will be okay. But again, reach out to me if you have questions or concerns. That leads me to bullet point 3, which is ask for help if you need it. Again, don't suffer in silence. If you're struggling and I don't hear from you, I just assume everything's going well. So be sure that you reach out to me if you have any questions or concerns, and do your best. Learning is difficult, learning something new, shaking the rust off of a skill like writing. If you haven't done writing for a long time or a lot of complex writing assignments for a while, shaking off that rust can be a challenge, but anytime we're learning something new, or we're sort of learning something again, or we're sort of drilling down and going deeper on a concept or a skill like writing, it can be uncomfortable sometimes, and it can be a little bit stressful sometimes, and it can cause some anxiety sometimes. But just remember, writing is a process, learning is a process, and not everything that you generate for this class, when we get to some of the larger writing assignments, is going to be perfect on the first draft. And that's why we draft, and that's why we spend time getting our ideas together, outlining, doing all of those things so that you can have work that is the best representation of your thinking and writing. So I'm going to stop sharing here. That's pretty much everything that I wanted to go over at this point in the video lecture. But again, reach out to me at any time if you have questions or concerns. As you keep working through the module, you'll see a little bit more about the class in terms of how to submit assignments, how to check your grades in Blackboard Ultra, how to kind of navigate the course, and some other tips for success, in addition to our first writing assignment and our first discussion board post at the end of the module. But I wanted to welcome you to the class, wanted to introduce myself, share a little bit of my background, and kind of let you know where we're headed over the course of the semester. So good luck this week. Glad to have you in class, and please reach out to me and let me know if you have questions or concerns at any time, and I'll be talking to you again soon.